I love Gelato Messina. I love their products. I love the restraint shown when it comes to their branding, their unapologetic and quite noisy customer experience, their alternative approach to running a business, and so much more. And between you and I'm pretty sure their hokey pokey flavour is made in heaven. It's a deliciously creamy episode 593 of the 12-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Tim Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of slightly frozen, but not too hard marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours, just like yours, to grow. How do I do that? Great question. By having in-depth conversations with successful business founders from around this crazy, crazy world. Seems to be getting crazier by the minute, doesn't it? You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into, guess what? The empire that it absolutely deserves to be. And that, my friend, is exactly why this show exists, and well done to you for finding it. If it's your first time round, welcome. What took you so long? If it's your 500th time around, I love you. Gives me a little shiver up the spine to know you've been listening that long. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Before we meet Declan Lee, founder of my favourite gelato brand in the world, a big thank you to all the businesses that turned up to an event that I gave a keynote at last week on the Fraser Coast in Queensland. You were an absolutely fantastic audience. I know you benefited from it because you had so many wonderful questions and comments afterwards. It's always a good way to evaluate the success of one of my keynotes. If you are part of a chamber or a group of businesses and would like me to come and speak, go and check out timreid.com.au. That's my speaker's website. And you can find out a little bit more about what I can share with your group. And by the way, hang around after this interview to hear from a listener who shares how he's benefited hugely from my advice around niching and high converting websites. Enough updates, on with the show. Righto, time for a bit of fanboying. My apologies up front. You see, Declan Lee is the co-founder of Gelato Messina, a gelato chain with 23 stores nationally and one in Honkers. Personally, I think it's the best gelato in Australia. Possibly the world, although I have been to Italy and I've had some rippers, but I've got to tell you, Australia-wide, these guys are amazing. Unlike most gelato shops, with their fluorescent lighting, sticky floors and basic flavours made in some unknown factory, Gelato Messina stores are more like a mini nightclub. Dimly lit, music blaring, funky seats to enjoy 40 to die for flavours, all made in-house from scratch. Like, they even make the apple pies and apple crumbles that go into the apple crumble flavour. Like, they do everything from scratch. And they have a staff culture that breeds fun and innovation. Now, Declan first appeared on this show 5 years ago, episode 539 to be exact. They've grown a lot since then. So I thought it would be time for a bit of an update to find out what has been working for them in terms of growth. This time around, Declan shares how brutal honesty drives all his business decisions. He describes Gelato Messina's highly effective innovation process, and we all need one of those. He explains the role of music in branding. Boy, is that underdone in most businesses, like 99.9% of them. He explains why owning as much of the supply chain is good for business. They've got dairy farms, strawberry farms, hazelnut farms. They own it all. And I share a customer complaint I made on the weekend for Declan to explain how he would have handled it. It wasn't with Gelato Messina, it was with a local cafe around here. Makes me out to be a bit of a tight ass, but anyway, have a listen. You maybe can tell me what you think. Now, you will hear a bit of background noise. Gelato Messina is bursting at the seams and is about to relocate to bigger premises. But for this interview, Declan, like all good founders, finds himself sitting right amongst his team. When I was the marketing manager at Flight Centre, slight digression here, but I shared a desk with one of the founders of Flight Centre. It's so good because you certainly get a great insight into them and they get a good insight into you and what's going on in the business. Anyway, I digress. I started off by asking Declan how he and his business partners aren't all 200 kilograms plus, given just how unbelievably delicious Gelato Messina is. Now, Declan, I'm going to start off by asking you, how are you not 200 kilograms based on what you do?
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I train every day. I go to the gym every day, but my business partners as well. Everyone's just obsessed with fitness at the moment. We've got our own gym here. We're building our own gym in our new site, like a proper gym.
Oh, yeah.
And we train, like I train, I get up at 4:30 every day and go to the gym at 5.
Well, you'd have to, mate. I've done a thorough research for this interview. I've tried all 40 flavours. And I've scoured the webs, even looking at your bloody website, mate. I put on weight. It's that good.
Yeah, it's a daily issue, to be honest, because we do our own chocolate now, and we've got the chocolatier comes up, the chefs come up. There's always something being baked. It's a real challenge, but that's why I do it. I actually control the first half of my day. I don't really eat breakfast. I have salad for lunch, and by the end of the day, I'm okay.
So, Declan, it's awesome having you back, mate. I mean, I am a big fan of Gelato Messina. I said that to you when we had a chat 5 years ago. It's a brand that seems to continue to develop, and I'm excited to hear sort of what's been working for you since we last spoke. One of the things that really caught my attention when we did speak was this core value of brutal honesty. This one core value. I'm a big believer that 5 or 6 core values are useless because no one adheres to them, no one implements them. But Gelato Messina has this one value, brutal honesty, that plays out throughout the business. And I'm just wondering, of recent years, of recent days, weeks, how it's played out in a really successful or sort of reassuring way for you.
I mean, it is across the board. I mean, we don't write it anywhere. We don't stick it on a wall and, in the back of the toilet door or anything and make people read it. It's just a philosophy that we live by. I mean, we just live by it. I think it just comes from us, the way that we farm. We've got a dairy farm and we milk the cows once a day, and we do no-till farming. It's organic farming, and, the results speak for themselves. We have cows that produce, milk that's like 5 to 6% fat, which is unheard of. We milk the cows, we pasteurize it, we stick it in a truck, and this guy drives it in a lorry from Shepparton to Sydney every Sunday morning. Right?
Really?
It's just, it's what we do. And, I think I probably said this to you last time because I've said it a lot. If you tell the truth, you can't get tripped up, right?
Correct.
If you start telling lies, when you're a brand that has as much attention on it as we do, as soon as you tell a lie and someone picks you,
gotcha,
you're done, I reckon.
Then they're not coming back.
No, it's like a friend that lies to you or does something. You're never really going to trust them perfectly again, and I think that's the trick. One
of the really interesting things with Messina is you're not a brand that makes big, bold claims. You really do let your product do the talking. The old saying, the best marketing is a great product. And you guys are just an absolute example of that.
Yeah.
Are you ever tempted, to make – has someone ever said to you, like, come on, we've got to say we're the best gelato in, this side of Italy or, whatever it may be. But
yeah, and in fact, we're working on a project now that I can't really tell you about, but the guys that are working on that branding piece with us have said, you guys need to be more ballsy. You need to talk about this stuff like you own it. And we're like, well, it's not really what we do, right? We try and be humble about what we do. And like you said, we let the product speak for itself always. We still talk about what we do, and we know we do it better than other people, like the dairy farming and the hazelnut farming, the source of our products and how we don't cut corners. But if you just talk about that stuff and you don't back it up with a product that tastes great, then what's the point? And I have to say, that's what a lot of people do. Everyone tells the same story. And they say, we use the best pistachios from Bronte in Italy, and we use this and we use that. But I know they're using pastes because I can see them in their stores, or you can just tell that the way they make it, they don't do it the same that we do. And I think walking the walk and talking the talk is really important.
Yes.
Right? You need both things, but you don't need to talk about it all the time.
There's that great saying, don't tell me you're funny, tell me a joke. So, like,
Yeah, that's right.
put your money where your mouth is and just prove to me that.
Absolutely.
One of the things I've been doing, I've been having singing lessons of late, Declan. And
Really?
yeah. And I've been studying.
I thought about that.
It's good fun, man. It just takes you out of your comfort
Just
zone.
put yourself out of your comfort zone. Exactly.
Yep. I've always loved singing, and a bunch of old blokes invited me to be part of a band. Long story, doesn't matter. But my point was that, and I have been studying some rock stars that I really admire, looking at documentaries, going into the YouTube black hole, and the word restraint comes to mind all the time when you have this discussion. Great musicians, great singing, great anything requires restraint because, like with singing, if you try to belt something out, it just sounds as though you're trying to belt something out, whereas that control and that, I'd really love to go a bit harder, but I'm going to pull back. And it feels like that's what Gelato Messina is really good at, is restraint. And it's hard.
Yeah. And there's other gelato companies that I think will cover up their, what's the word I'm looking for, inadequacies by providing more, right? They've got a whole table full of lollies and additions and snakes and whatever that you're supposed to put on your gelato. And I think for me that's a mistake because you're just making a mess of everything, right? And we go back to this idea that you're creating something that when we've made it, that's how you should be eating it, right? Now, we do silly stuff as well. We do creations and collaborations with other brands. And, we always say that we don't use artificial flavors and colorings. And most of the time we don't. But if we're doing a special project and we're making something green, then we put a coloring in it, right? But most of the time when we're making our products, we stick to the philosophy that, most of our cabinet is beige and brown because that's what
the colours.
Our choc mint isn't bright green because when you put mint through a mill, it comes out sort of a little bit dark green browny colour. That's just how it is, right?
That's how it is. Let's not hide from it. I want to talk to you about flavours because you have got. I think you have at any one time. Is it 40 flavours plus 4 or 5 special flavours? Or
there's 40 in the cabinet, which is usually about 35 that are just stable classics, and then every day we do one special. So from sort of Monday to Friday or it's Tuesday to Saturday we do a new special.
To me, and I've talked about this on the show in recent weeks actually, this whole concept of choice. As consumers and as a consumer, I hate choice. Like, tell me what to buy. Tell me what to buy. Or limit what I can choose from. I came across this wonderful fellow in Federal at the back of Byron Bay a few months ago. He had a little gelato. He's 4th generation gelato guy from Italy. His business is called Benny Lato. And he had this little trolley in between 2 shops and they were the most beautiful gelatos and he only had 6 flavours. And it was like, oh, this is awesome. I don't need to choose. You've got 40. Is there a reason? I've heard an interview with your head chef who says, you kind of need that many in order to demonstrate just how great gelato is. But is there an 80-20 rule apply?
No, it just came out. Look, we try and remove. We would love to do less flavours, but it doesn't make any sense. To like everything that we sell in the classics makes sense, right? From your tiramisus to your sorbets, the lemon sorbet.
There's a good reason for every single flavour.
There is, there really is. And then you've got enough space to be creative outside of that. And we do these specials, but, not everyone comes in to eat the specials. People come in and they listen to us because they want to hear what's going on, but they might still come in and have a scoop of salted caramel white chocolate, right? But they like the innovation and they like the stories and they like, the gags and, they just, it's like a friend, that's a bit talkative.
100%. Well, like a friend who's a bit talkative in a nightclub, which we spoke about that last time, so I won't go on about it. But for anyone who hasn't been to a Gelato Messina, it verges on nightclub. You can't hear yourself order. You certainly can't hear the person on the other side of the counter asking you what you ordered. But I mean, it's all part of the charm. Interestingly enough, and it's a conversation I haven't had on this show, you're an ex-DJ and festival promoter in a previous life, Declan. What role does music play in the Gelato Messina brand?
It's a good question, and it's not it's an incidental piece of the bigger puzzle, right? And this is something, when we curate the playlists, they're not designed so that you listen to a 1 hour mix. It's designed so that when someone walks into the store for 10 minutes when they're buying the gelato, the experience is enhanced by the musical experience, right? And it, you know, we always play like house music and stuff, but it's like specifically deep house, and it's specifically music that's inoffensive. It's inoffensive to people that aren't even necessarily into house music, and it just enhances the experience. You're supposed to walk in, not really know the music, not really understand it unless you're right into it.
You certainly hear it.
Well, yeah, but you come in and you go, you're coming in and you're coming in to have a joyful experience. You know, they're coming in to have a good time. They're not coming in. It's not like going into, you know, Services New South Wales where you're about to have a battle with someone or something, right? You're coming in and you're expecting to have a good time. So the musical environment, the lighting, everything should be enhancing that experience, not making it worse. So,
well, it actually makes you want to. I can't think of another ice cream shop. Thinking on the run here, where you actually want to stay and have an experience beyond just ordering. You know, I'm up in Noosa these days, Declan, and there's a lot of ice cream shops in Hastings Street. One comes to mind immediately, which is Mossimo.
Yeah,
and they can't wait to get you out. They cannot wait to get you out. There's nowhere to sit outside except on the steps on Hastings Street, but. Yeah. And it's the best.
They're also designed in this weird way, which is, I don't know, it's just they've learned, you know, it's bright white fluorescent lights. It's
what's
like
that about?
It's designed for children, right? It's designed for kids. And I think there's this idea that kids love ice cream and therefore you have to design for them. But in fact, they're not the ones that are buying the ice cream, right? It's they're certainly not. And the parents, and I think if the parents have an experience or an adult experience where they can go and the children can enjoy it as well, then you've captured both of those audiences, right?
100%. That music thing is really interesting to me because branding's hard. Finding points of difference in your brand is hard.
Yeah,
I am amazed at just how few are businesses, and not just in food or what. You know, I'm talking retail. I'm talking hospitality. Just can't get it right, can't get music right. In fact, most leave it. It's almost like an afterthought. And one of the young staff members, hello to all you young staff members out there, you're doing a great job. But they just go, oh, geez, it'd be nice to have a bit of music. And they just put some random playlist or radio station on. And it's off-putting.
And sometimes it could be good and sometimes it can be bad, you know. And I go into, you know, some places and they'll play like, I don't know, it's some terrible like commercial radio station playlist, and I think that might suit you, and it might suit, but the experience isn't necessarily enhanced when you come in and you hear some terrible, you know, there's good pop music for sure, but it's weird. I think those details people don't think a lot about, to be honest.
Yeah, and they can make or break.
It. They don't even know where to start. They don't know where to start. They're not into music, or they know it needs to be good, but I don't know, do I put on a chill out compilation? Or, you know, I do find one track on Spotify and hit radio, maybe. You know, it's not perfect. But,
Let's talk innovation beyond music. You are an innovative business, and it would appear to me that it sort of feels like innovation comes from anywhere without any real formal process. Is that right? Or what does your innovation process look like?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we don't talk. The innovation process comes in the back end that we don't really talk about. You know, from a science and production point of view, we really know what we're doing. But when we try new products and we try and make things do things that they don't normally do, you know, like particular cake or something performs in gelato at -14, you have to do. There's a bit of science to that sort of stuff. So there is a bit of innovation behind it, and we're always trying to work out ways where, when you eat that product, it tastes amazing, right? So, and that's hard to do when everything's frozen.
Yeah.
So
no doubt.
I mean, we do 3 of the cakes that we do. Of the cakes that we do, we call them trans cakes, and basically what they are a cake that, when it's frozen, it eats a lot like an ice cream, but you can actually take it and travel with it for like an hour or 2 hours, put it in a fridge, let it come to fridge temperature, and that eats like a mousse cake. Now, it's not actually rocket science, but there is a bit of science behind it, and we think that's pretty tricky. I don't know anyone else that's doing that, but it allows for greater travel time. So that sort of stuff is stuff we do all the time.
Is your innovation process quite broad in the sense that people on the shop floor can actually send ideas off to head office, or do they have permission to implement things at a store level?
Yeah, absolutely. We get ideas from people all the time. Usually, the trick is for us. The innovative part is not the idea, but it's making the idea palatable. You know what I mean? Someone might say, "Oh, you should chuck a meat pie in there," and we go, "Well, actually, if you want to put a meat pie in there, you're going to have to do this to it, or you're going to have to do this to it to make it." Edible. So that's the innovation part for us. But yeah, we do a lot of it.
Well, I know one of the great innovations that you're pretty proud of is the creative department. And I think I saw somewhere where you made an ice cream from potato, which sounds absolutely revolting, but given it was a Gelato Messina offering, I'm sure it was excellent. Just explain the creative department, how that came about. What is it?
Well, at the moment it's closed down because of COVID, but we're about to reopen it. But it was really an opportunity for us to kind of flex our muscle. We had some really amazing chefs and amazing people. The guy that was the head chef there is someone that worked for us in the early days and went to be a chef at a restaurant called Den in Tokyo, which is very well renowned, very innovative and creative in the way that they serve their food. He came back here and had some really great ideas around sort of savory ingredients that would go into gelato, bone marrow gelato. He would work with fish and duck fat and, cod fat and all these
You're not selling it to me.
things, but make them completely and utterly palatable, and make them work in this sort of environment where it was like a meal, but everything had a bit of gelato in it, and it was stuff that you couldn't really get your head around unless you actually ate it.
Yeah,
and it really became just a way of us of, sometimes not everyone takes what we do as seriously. The fine dining world might not think that we are as technical as we are. And so sometimes I think it's a really great place for our chefs and our creatives to kind of flex their muscle and go, actually, you know what, we really know what we're doing. And, it's just keeps people interested.
Well, I love the way the brand has extended itself. So you've got the creative department, you've got gelato making classes, cake mixes, you cart and van hire, all sorts of different ways of extending, which strategically makes sense to me because all those things rely on gelato. I have my next guest after you is Amanda Walker, who is the founder of Lord of the Fries.
Oh, yes.
And one of the questions I have for her is, they've gone well beyond fries. They're into burgers and nuggets and onion rings and all this other stuff. And so it's quite interesting to, again, you're showing restraint. You're showing there are probably other areas you could take the brand into, but everything has to be around gelato.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, having said that, we're also now sort of flexing our way into chocolate, which we've been doing for quite a while now, but we were doing chocolate but never tempering it and making it into a chocolate product, was just into our gelato. But we've actually got some chocolatiers here now. We've sourced an amazing bean, single origin bean. We also sourced a single origin bean from the Daintree, so we started making an Australian chocolate that is completely 100% Australian. And our chocolate, which is our couverture chocolate, for chefs, is extremely well regarded. I mean, we're only just starting out in some ways, but Key uses it. A lot of high-end restaurants are using our chocolate. We're making bonbons, chocolate pieces for some of the restaurants that just absolutely love what we do. And that's the next step for us, doing stuff in that field. Yeah.
Last interview, Declan, you were just buying the dairy farm, I think. I know now you guys own...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was around that time. You might have just bought it. You've now got a hazelnut farm. I think you have a strawberry farm. And you're hoping to do possibly some kind of event centre or farm gate destination on one of those farms. Is that happened, or is it likely to happen?
We were looking at we were about to do our first tour for a bunch of chefs and stay on the farm and do all that sort of stuff, and then COVID hit and everything sort of went to crap, and it's just taken a backseat since then. The dairy farm has grown incredibly, but we're just not quite ready, as everyone is having the same problem. We have real staffing issues at the moment, so we can't do anything like that at the moment, unfortunately.
Now let's talk marketing, as you are head of marketing and brand for Gelato Messina. First of all, your website. It's a beautiful website. And a lot of effort's certainly gone into the photography, and there's a lot of great content. Just wonder, how important is a website for a business like yours? I don't imagine it getting a whole lot of traffic. You've got a bit of e-commerce going on, I get that, but what role does it play?
It just completes the picture, right?
You can't not have one.
It's a signpost in many ways. You can't not have it. I mean, I can't imagine that many people on a day-to-day basis go there to look and find out about what we're about. I mean, that's where Instagram comes in for us at the moment. But I would say that, like you say, there's e-com on there. Like, it's just the place you go to when you need to go there, right? It's mostly e-com and reserving tables at the creative department and booking gelato classes and all that sort of stuff, I think is super important.
So with social media, what's the most effective platform for you, and how is it effective? What are you doing on it?
Yeah, well, Instagram is the most effective thing at the moment.
Visual.
That changes over time, doesn't it? I mean, Facebook was that for a while, but currently at the moment it's Instagram, and it just works. I mean, it's just a visual feast, right? It's very instantaneous. People are always on it. They're just scrolling through, and I guess the way it's changed from sort of the Facebook days is it's so much quicker, right? You have to tell your message in like an instant, and most of the time it's just through the edible nature of the picture rather than the words. The words are secondary. So,
interestingly enough, though, I had a fellow, Philip Cooch, who is a local Melbourne guy. He owns 3 bakeries called Goldilocks, and he's in the top 3 Australian businesses on TikTok. And TikTok's just gone, even when I was interviewing him a few weeks ago, I think your maximum video was like, I want to say 5 minutes. They've just gone to 15. So maybe our attention spans are coming back. But he was absolutely nailing it. He had some ridiculous amount of views per video and things like that. But
I mean, we've talked about that. It's TikTok's a really funny thing. Like we've dabbled in it, and we know what we need to do, but you really just need someone that just does that, right? And the way that you create content on TikTok is different to the way you create content everywhere. To make it, digestible and to get those sorts of views, you really need, it's a young native TikTok.
You need a hook within 5 seconds, or they're just gone.
And we just, that requires this person that that's what they do, right? And there's kids out there, but the thing that I think is interesting,
but don't you have that? You're big enough for that.
Well, we don't really. We've got one guy that creates all the content, but he's not. He started with us when he was very young. He's an amazing content creator, but he doesn't spend all his time on TikTok. No. And so we've been talking about getting someone involved, but I would argue at this stage that when you do TikTok, you can have 5 million views on a video, but it might not sell you more than one other cake, right? Whereas I think something like Instagram and Facebook, it's much more linear. You have this many views on or this many likes on Instagram. It does relate to actual sales. That's how it works. But the TikTok thing, it's a beast in its own right.
What's your view on all those? Because as a marketing person responsible for Gelato Messina and one of the co-founders, your job is to get the brand out there. And there are so many bright, shiny objects today on the marketing landscape. Just from a social media point of view, I mean, it's nuts. Yeah. Again, is it restraint, or is it literally like, man, I've got no extra capacity for any of this. Let's just nail Instagram.
It's a bit of both, to be honest. I mean, I feel like there's a generation coming through that are TikTok natives, and its importance will increase over time in the same way that Instagram did, same way that Facebook did. But right now, it's not necessarily the core of what we do. We do need to get involved. But like I said, I think it's very, I don't know how to describe it, but you can have 5 million views and not one person is buying your product. Whereas, like I said, Instagram's different. We'll have to get involved in it more than we are already. But we've dabbled in it and we know what its power is, but I don't want to do it. I think if you go into that world and you go, right, I'm going to do TikTok and I'm going to do all this stuff, and you don't have someone that is native to that platform and knows how to use it properly, you just look like an old man trying to use a new piece of kit, right? And I don't want to do that.
I want to share a little customer feedback experience I had on the weekend, just gone. Because you're someone, obviously, I guess if a problem in the business escalates beyond store level, you're probably one of the guys who for sure takes the call. So I have this cafe near me that's opened only a few months ago, and I'm really excited for them. They're in a funny part of town. It's not Hastings Street, Noosa, which is the flash part of town. This is out of town. I'm giving you context because I made a complaint to them on the weekend, and I need you to sort of understand, and the listeners to understand the background. I'm interested in what you think their response was like. So with their social media, it's awesome. They make the food look amazing. It just looks like you just want to go there. Every time they post on Insta, it's like, man, I got to go there and get that, whatever it is, that burger, that muffin, that coffee. So anyway, I went there on the weekend and I went there as a result of seeing a social media post, and it wasn't a great experience. So I messaged them through Insta, and this is what I said. Some feedback. $15, here I sound like a tight ass here, $15 for some slithers of corn, and it was literally half a corn cut in quarters, $15, put on a bloody grill with a bit of seasoning. For 1 minute, and of corn, and $15 for one minimal fish taco is a bit over the top. Your socials are excellent and promise a lot, but charging Hastings Street prices and servings in the Breeze is the suburb out of Noosa. So they're sort of charging Hastings Street prices and got this minimal serving thing going on. I said, it's not cool. Please take this constructive feedback as intended. I want you guys to succeed. That's my complaint. And they came back and said, thanks for your feedback, Tim. We will definitely take this on board. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
What do you reckon about that response? Or what do you reckon about that complaint?
I mean, it's a tough one. I deal with that stuff all the time. And I got to say, if people are polite and it is genuinely constructive.
I want these guys to succeed so much.
Yeah. It's really hard sometimes because most of the complaints you get are not constructive and they're just whingy, whiny people that want their money back. And some, they just make shit up. And they always say, I'm never coming back. Because they think they have to be nasty to get a response out of you. I think constructive criticism is good. The only thing I would say, I mean, if we had a complaint like that, we would always look at it and say, is this value or is this not? But, the first thing that I thought about when you said that, and one of the things a lot of people don't realise at the moment, and this is probably not in that case, but at the moment, input costs are so high that everyone is undercharging. But because it happens so quickly, it's really hard to put your prices up because people are used to what they perceive as value. But I can tell you the input prices on food at the moment and, trying to get everything, it's insane.
Food, right? everything you want.
Insane.
It's
now,
expensive.
I can't imagine that's why your taco didn't feel like good value because they're going, I need to cut back and it probably just was they just didn't think enough.
Well,
about
and
it,
what
but,
they haven't done, and I won't go on any longer because it's I'm just interested in how you'd handle that complaint. But what they haven't done is a competitive sort of look around the place to see what else you can get for that or less, and it's a lot, So, like I said, I really want them to succeed, and that was my pure intention. I want to talk about overseas expansion.
Sorry, I did like the response though. It's a really polite way of
Get
going.
stuffed.
I don't have time for this shit. Fuck off. Yeah.
I get it.
I don't have time for this shit, but I don't want to abuse you. So just go away.
As I was typing it, I felt like a bit of a tight ass. I felt like a whinger. I don't want them to fail, and the only other option is not to go back, and that's your vote.
That's right.
And I've done that a lot. We've all done that a lot, and it's like, maybe the chef had a bad day, maybe they were undersupplied, whatever it is. But I feel like now it's kind of, I think in my old age, Declan, I'm just going to get a little bit whingier from a good place, but just a little bit whingier. It's my job. Tell me, overseas expansion, Declan, I'm kind of interested. You've got 23 stores in Australia, one in Hong Kong. You had one in Vegas when we last spoke, which is closed. I've got a few questions around that, but first and foremost, why head overseas? You haven't got Australia covered yet, have you? What's the upside of opening a shop in Hong Kong, for example?
But there's work to be done in Australia, but it's not huge amounts, right? We've got 2 stores coming in Perth. We've got Adelaide coming. We are moving into the other cities, but we've never really thought that we're a business like, a big franchise business, where you got one on every corner in every suburb. It's not how we kind of roll. There's too many moving parts to the way that we produce the product that we produce. And we feel like the opportunity is to expand overseas. And Hong Kong is a really good example of that, where you can go over there and you've got the machinery of another organisation that can roll out your brand under your guidance. And, there's also to some degree less risk, that someone else is sort of taken the punt in the city that they know. You know, for us to go over there and spend $2 million opening a store in Hong Kong when we don't, we've travelled there, but we don't really know how everything works there in some ways. Supplies, the guys over there, they've already got supply routes. They've already got suppliers that they have competitive prices.
What do you do about ingredients? Because you're so proud of the fact that all ingredients are local and many are created by yourself. I mean, you own a huge part of the supply chain.
Well, we do that. For Hong Kong is a really good example. Yeah, we even air freight our milk over there. So, and that's a really interesting city because the retail prices over there are so high that it actually allows you to do what we're doing, right? You can send milk over there and you can send our products over there and it still makes sense. The challenge for us will be other cities where you can't do that. They're more competitive and they have their own local industries, but that's okay as well. We've talked about opening in New Zealand and we love the idea of sending the stuff that we premix here, but using the dairy products that are in New Zealand because their milk is so great that we could actually... That's part of the story.
Yeah, you
right?
got it. Yeah, 100%.
Farm. It just has to be the best products that we can get, right? And so,
And I love the fact that you said it's part of the story because, one thing you do well is storytelling. And interestingly enough, Black Sheep Restaurant, who you've partnered with in Hong Kong, is quite an interesting business. I had a look at what they're doing. They tell stories through food. That's their whole sort of value proposition. How did something like that come about? Did you reach out?
I think they reached out to us ages ago and the conversation started up again and we were going over there for an event. We did an event over there, a pop-up event, and we met them and one thing led to another and they look after they have their own brands, but they also look after some other brands under license from the States.
So they're not new to it.
No. They got like 16 brands or something like that.
We spoke 5 years ago, Declan. There's a lot you're getting right. What's one or two levers that you've pulled since we last spoke that have really given you a bit of a hockey stick inflection of growth?
I don't know if it's a hockey stick inflection of growth. I think one of the things that we did was we started doing things like the dairy farm, the hazelnut farm, the strawberries. It gave us a point of difference over and above pretty much anyone that's doing what we're doing here. And I think if you want to evolve as a business, you have to continually innovate, and that innovation can happen in many ways. And one of the things that we did was we made sure that we provided ourselves with the best raw ingredients that we could get. So whether that led to growth, I think what that does is it maintains your growth and it maintains your relevancy in the industry that you're working in, right? So people can still come back to Messina that had been buying from us for the last 10 years and say they've still got something to talk about, right? Before they might have been talking about Messina's amazing specials and, they do these crazy stuff and their social's really great. And sure, we still do all that stuff, but now they can go, Messina, it's amazing. We love their gelato. Do you know they have their own dairy farms and all that sort of stuff? And it's not manufactured, we don't do that just to tell that. Yeah, it's genuine, and because that's what we do. And I just think it maintains. I think if you want to have a long life with a brand and something that turns into an iconic brand, I think you need to innovate in that way. And not just innovating as in we make our product slightly better, but it's innovating in the way that you do business, right? And that's where the dairy farms and stuff comes into it.
I want to touch on your real estate strategy because obviously it's probably a key part of your marketing, like distribution, getting awareness. And you're in some interesting places. Like in one sense, you're at Star Casino in Sydney. Big rental cost. Maybe not as big as it used to be because now there's a new casino. And then you're at sort of West End, Brisbane. I want to put this to you because I thought I might have seen a Gelato Messina pop up in Noosa. So
we've talked about it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, again, I don't mean this to be a Noosa-centric podcast, but Noosa, global, international destination for people to travel to. There are 7 ice cream or gelato shops in Hastings Street, Noosa, so that's sort of covered. But what's happened is rental prices have gone through the roof in Hastings Street, Noosa, and it's pushed a lot of people out. So now we've just got the big brands, the Country Roads, the Just Jeans, the Meccas. And Noosa Junction, which sits a kilometre back from Noosa, has become a real foodie destination. Like every night it is heaving and it's exciting. You can go to a wine bar, you can get a great feed, but guess what? Once you've finished that great feed, there's nowhere to walk to get an ice cream. No ice cream in Noosa Junction. And it's been that way for a good 2 or 3 years. And I even thought about it. I think I might have even thought about ringing you and saying, hey, listen, what do you reckon? Based on what you know of Noosa, I'm just interested in your real estate strategy. What did you know about what I just told you? Have you investigated it?
Not in that detail. I mean, we've been to Noosa. I mean, my business partner Nick loves it there. I went there about a year ago this month, actually, for a friend's 50th for the first time since probably in 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And we always look at these places, but we don't have this crazy research and strategy for where we open. It's a bit ad hoc at times. And we talk about Noosa and then everyone forgets about it. And, we have one business development guy who also does other things. So, he's flat out just trying to do the stuff that falls on our lap. So trying to find new, a lot of businesses like, the bigger franchise models, they do a lot of research everywhere, right? Yeah. They do research on, demographics and population and all that sort of stuff. And that's how we don't really do that. In fact, we don't do any of it. And the only information that we get on that stuff is when we know those guys and they give it to us.
Tell me, can I ask you, go be blunt, are you embarrassed by that? Or is that just how you guys roll?
It's just how we roll. I mean, we because we don't feel like we need to have one on every street corner, we don't have growth plans. We're not looking to build our business into this behemoth that we sell to private equity. So we don't have a growth plan that's like that. Our growth plan is to just do things that we want to do. I mean, if we had a growth plan and a proper financial plan, we would never have done a dairy farm. We would never have done a hazelnut farm. They just bleed money. But it was just what we wanted to do.
It's such a beautiful way to run a business. It is.
I mean,
you know what I got from you saying that? A sense of peace.
Yeah. I mean, some people would argue with it, but we don't know what we'll do with this business. But at the moment, we think it's the type of thing that we want to have till we die and have till our kids, if they choose to work in it, will work in it. And my business partner, Danny, his 2 kids work in it already. They're in their early 20s or late teens. And they're doing great work. And they love it. They're proud of the business and they want to keep, whether my kids do that, Nick's kids do that. They're too young at the moment. But we run it as a business that we would leave to our kids. Whether that happens or not, it's another story.
Well, that's beautiful to hear because you actually mentioned that in our first interview 5 years ago and to not have wavered from that, because I can tell you I interviewed Jamie Cook of Stone and Wood. I've interviewed him twice now. So Stone and Wood, for those listeners who don't know what that is, it's one of the biggest craft beers in Australia. And the first time I interviewed Jamie, I said, mate, and that was about 7 years ago. I was like, are we ever going to find you in Dan Murphy's or one of the big Oh, no, we'll never be in there. A few months later, they were in Dan Murphy's. I then interviewed him another time as a bit of a follow-up. Are you ever going to sell? You must get some big offers for some big. No. We've got a profit share scheme, and the staff are happy, and he's just sold for some ridiculous amount of money to. I think it might have been the Japanese brewery or something. But
I mean, look, we get courted by private equity and investors all the time.
No doubt.
But it would have to be ridiculous money for us to sell, right? We're not interested in selling and making a little bit of money, all of us buying a little house and then going, what
that's right.
Are we going to do with that time, right? It just it doesn't make any sense for us. If we ever sold, it would be either that we sell a chunk of the business to make some money now. I mean, we've come this far. Without really borrowing very much money. It's always money that we've made and goes back into the business. Yeah, right. None of us are ridiculously rich. Just, we've got a great asset and a great business. Yeah, but I think, if someone offered us a stupid amount of money, we would probably take it at some point, but it's not.
Well, I interviewed a fellow from Birchall, which is a crowdfunding, Birchall?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So maybe there's just people like me, brother, who just love your brand, who love your product, who would just like to have a little slice of the action, a little scoop of the action,
Yeah. We've been talking about that Birchall platform recently about another idea and project that we have, and the idea might be to do it in that way. So.
Well, you never know. Hey, Declan, awesome to speak, man. Just lovely to hear the business is going like it is and that it's just kind of happening in its own time, at its own pace.
Yeah.
I'd like a business like that.
We'll catch up in 5 years. I might have sold it to
That's
Asahi.
right. It's like, I can do the interview, Tim. I'll just have to do it in the back of my Lambo.
That's it.
For everyone who wants to check out Gelato Messina, if you're in Australia, just go to one. Seriously, just go to one and let me know what you think, or visit the website gelatomessina.com. Hey, Declan, well done, brother, and thanks again for giving us an update.
It's a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Well, there you go, team. Gelato Messina's co-founder, Declan Lee. How good is he? Seriously. I just think he's just a wonderful, wonderful founder with some great insights. If you liked what he had to share, be sure to listen to my first chat with him 5 years ago on episode 359. I'll put a link to that episode over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/593. That'll help you get there. My big takeaway from that chat with Declan? Restraint. I love the restraint Declan shows in building the Gelato Messina brand. He knows exactly what it stands for. He doesn't try to cram every message known to man into all parts of his marketing, and he relies on the core value of being brutally honest as his North Star in all of his marketing and business decisions. Sounds simple, doesn't it? It's probably a bit more complicated than he made out, but I do love the way he goes about things. Let me know what grabbed your attention, or maybe you want to tell me what's on your marketing mind. Just call the Small Business Big Marketing hotline on 0480 015 150. Put it in your phone. Call me once a month. I don't mind. And if you're overseas, you can still call me. Just put a +61 in front of it and drop the 0. So +61 480 015 150. Just like long-time listener and immigration lawyer Nick did.
Hi, Timbo. This is Nick. I first started listening to your podcast back in 2016 when I started Handsome Migration. I have contacted you a couple of times before. So I'm a migration agent that specialises in partner and family visas. And I have to say your podcast has given me the confidence to niche specifically, which definitely has helped in terms of marketing, creating efficient systems and staying on top of the ever-changing migration legislation. I also started a podcast called Journey to Oz, where myself and another migration agent interview clients about their life and their journey to Australia. And that was very much inspired by your podcast. So thank you for that. I really enjoyed your recent interview with Greg Merrilees from Studio One Design. And I've actually contacted him to build a new website because I built my current website on Squarespace after being inspired by James Tramco and yourself in a podcast several years ago. And it works reasonably well, but I think a proper designer and copywriter could take it to the next level, especially given that we're looking to grow our team in the next year or so. So, yeah, I just want to say a big thanks for the podcast. I've learned a lot over the last few years and continue to recommend you to every business owner I know. So thank you again.
Hey, Nick, thank you so much, mate. You are such a great supporter of this podcast. Really appreciate it, brother. I know you won the Monster Prize draw a couple of years ago, and you are active and you're an implementer, and I really I have a lot of respect for you for doing that. Well done on being brave enough to niche your business down, by the way, to where it is today. It would appear that you're doing pretty well as a result. And good on you for listening and then contacting Studio One's Greg Merrilees for a new website. He just did mine over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, and I tell you what, I couldn't be happier. Conversions are up, list is building beautifully, and I think it actually looks aesthetically really pleasing with a great user interface. Maybe have a look, let me know. Take a listen to episode 581, in which Greg, the owner of Studio One Design, shares his 5 secrets to a high-performing website. Or if you want to just get straight into it, then complete a short quiz to see what's holding your website back over at Studio One Design. That's the number 1, studioOneDesign.com/Timbo, and you'll find a really cool little 10-minute quiz that'll identify problems with your website as it currently stands. Hey, thank you, Nick, for taking the time to send me that message. Everyone else, be like Nick. Call me 0480 015 150. Next week, we catch up with Lord of the Fries, not Lord of the Flies, Lord of the Fries founder Amanda Walker, who's built a national franchise business off the back of the humble spud. And I got to tell you, I do love a humble spud. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button. That helps heaps. And you know how you can help me even more? Leave me a review on, your favourite podcast app. It helps. Where you'll find 592 more chats with successful business founders. That's got to be a good thing. If you're ready to create some helpful marketing, grab a copy of my book, The Boomerang Effect, over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, my new website. And finally, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being an amazing business owner. I got your back as much as I can. And thank you for making the world a little bit of a better place because of your beautiful small business. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.